Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is editing Matt. It's currently 6:30, and I'm finishing up the episode, so I thought I'd drop this little bit in the beginning to apologize for all the background noise. Because of scheduling errors with this episode, we ended up having to record a lot earlier in the day than we usually do. So there's a lot of background noise, like some cars that pass by frequently, some children playing in the background, and a lot of bird chirping. So it'll all be fixed by the next episode. Our scheduling will be back on point. And even with the background noise, it was still a fun and great episode. So I hope you enjoy. And I will be passing the mic back on to past Matt. See you guys.
Coming at you live from CBT Studios in the heart of Roseville, California. I'm your host, Matt, and with me as always is my co-host,
Roger.
And today, joined with our special guest once again,
Devrin.
And this is the Cryptid vs. Cryptid podcast. Now play that freaky music. Scheduled fights. What is this? Fight 8 now?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, because we have one more till the recap for our second rounds. Special thanks to everybody. We've hit, I think we're at 660. No, we're above. We're like 670.
Yeah.
Because I sent you the picture of the 666 downloads. And so special thanks to everybody for listening. And another shout out to Tamara, who wrote into the podcast again, thanking us for the shout out, making people listen to our podcast because of the shout out, and also a special congratulations. She had said that she graduated college. That's why it took her so long to write back to the show. So from everybody at CBT Studios, congratulations, because that's a huge step and none of us have ever done it.
Didn't even go for it yet.
I went 1 year and then gave up. Too hard, not fun.
I went straight to work, so it's exactly my time.
It's the way to go, making some money. Some, not much. With that out of the way, let's hop into what we're talking about today and try and get it done quickly because I know you got to get to work eventually.
Yeah, is what it is.
So today we're going to talk about the Bunyip versus the Frogman of Loveland.
Loveland Frogman.
So do we want to cover the pants-wearing cryptid itself, or do we want to talk about the more obscure-looking Bunyip?
I think we should start with the pants-wearing one.
Anybody want to take away the history of the Frogman first, or?
It's up to you.
I got it.
Here you are.
During the post-war era of Americas in the 1950s, the spawned a cryptid of utmost terror in the quiet state of Ohio. This cryptid was described to be a 4 feet tall humanoid frog that would come to be known as the Loveland Frogman. Hold on to your socks because the Frogman gets even crazier. In one telling of the origin of this cryptid, it is stated that he uses a magic wand to generate sparks to scare the witnesses. If it wasn't enough to wild you out, and then another report is stated the Frogman was spotted wearing pants. This is weird amalgamation of Harry Potter meets Animal Crossing, something cooked up from the bombastic mind of the 50s, or does this spell book go even deeper than people give it credit for? I will say there's also reports of him tearing intestines out from the butthole, but you know.
I never heard that part.
Yeah, you had to go deep for that one.
I bet.
Literally.
Yeah, the Frogman's interesting character.
I mean, we're dealing with a mage who also knows how to wear pants.
Yeah, so like the first time that he was spotted was in like the spring of 1955 by a salesman at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I think this is the one where he saw 3 of them in a group on the side of the highway where it looked like they were praying. He thought they were men in some sort of meetup doing a prayer, and he got even closer, and they were like a dark green or gray, leathery color. As he got closer, he realized they were like amphibian frogmen, and he reported it to the police. But he said that one of them had pulled out a wand and they had loose-fitting pants. I don't know if that means like cargo pants, loose-fitting jeans, what.
Yeah,
but
just like 1 or 2 sizes too big.
he said that the one that pulled out the wand, it had generated sparks, but never really did anything. And then he tucked it away in like an ankle pocket or something. You know, like straight crazy-ass Harry Potter shit. He ended up reporting it, and I think it was a couple weeks later that Officer Sparks claimed to see one on his patrol.
And that was a big one because it was like a rookie and it was an officer, so usually people will hold officers to higher esteem of seeing shit. And I think it also left like marks on the guardrail, and they tried to hide it as like something like a lizard or something.
So when he saw it, it was like climbing over the guardrail, and he spotted it and like got out and looked at it or whatever, and then it climbed over the guardrail, and then it was like 2-3 weeks later, another officer, I can't remember his name.
His first name was Matthew.
Okay.
I do remember that one.
Of course you remember that. The second officer to see it 2 or 3 weeks later claimed that he had shot it with a .357 Magnum, which I don't know if you guys shoot guns.
I've shot that before.
But that would fuck up a frog.
Yeah.
And there was never a body claimed or anything like that. And it's just a whack story, honestly.
So here's my retort to that, because I did read the same thing. I didn't know how far you guys got in the cop reporting, but the Matthews guy said what he shot was like this really large lizard with its tail cut off.
Basically, he was kind of reporting a reptilian at that point. It wasn't like a frog, it was more of a reptilian. And later on, I think it was a few years later, when it only the Frogman technically only pops up every 20 years or something like that.
The sightings are
it only gets reported
between them.
And later on in life, both officers recounted their stories and said that they saw a giant tailless iguana.
Yeah, no, because I know there was a book, maybe it was like a collection of stories or something, but it was on the Frogman, and I guess the author had like taken out the part of the report where they say it's an iguana, and so the officers had a problem with that because it's like, hey, you're fucking messing up our story to try and fit your narrative for the Frogman.
Fun fact, there's I don't know if they're still going on today, but there's like a theater play about the Loveland Frogman. It's like a musical.
Yeah, I saw something on that. I was looking.
It's pretty funny.
I could have swore there was like a festival or something small. Maybe it was just the play.
I think they put on the Frogman for like their, when the thing comes around, a bunch of rides, a bunch of kids go there.
Oh, like a carnival?
Yeah, like a carnival type thing. I think they set it up for that.
Okay.
But not 100% on that part.
I mean, you got to kind of write it out. It is Ohio's biggest cryptid.
But it wasn't seen again until like 1972. And I can't remember who saw it in 1972.
Yeah, no, I think that was right. There was another reporting, I think it was in 2016 or
about
2014.
It was 2016 about the kids playing Pokemon Go.
Pokemon Go, yeah. And they reported seeing a Frogman.
Not in the game, though.
No.
So their police report was very on point that they were out there playing Pokemon Go, that he had happened to look up and saw the Frogman and made it a point to tell the officers it wasn't a Pokemon in the game.
Yeah, we saw it not on the phone, but actually there. Was reading, I think it was like a blog post or an article about that story, and they just made a stupid joke like, oh yeah, they guess they couldn't catch them all.
Later on, that story came to be debunked, that it was actually one of their friends from high school in a homemade suit with 2 flashlights as their eyes.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a good prank, especially a good time for it.
There is a fun conspiracy theory that I heard. The officers and the salesman, they never described who the salesman was working for. I listened to a bunch of things over the weekend just trying to catch up for research. There was a conspiracy that the salesman in 1955 worked for Budweiser, and they ended up capturing the 3 frogmen, and that's how we got the Budweiser frogs. I don't know if you guys ever seen those commercials.
I think I've seen 1 or 2 of those.
But there's a conspiracy of how we got the Budweiser frog people. I just thought that was funny. But other than that, there's not a lot of sightings on this guy.
There's just a couple big ones. I mean, the origin of the salesman, I was reading that it's one of like 3 different origins. Because it said there's another origin where there's like this group of bikers who see like this frog creature just running across the road. Nothing cool like magic or wearing pants.
So there's only like 6 recorded sightings from the 1950s to now. And I think the last time it was saw was like 2016 or 2018, where somebody had claimed to see it. But there is a Native American legend of a river spirit described as a frog-looking creature, and his name was like Shakir. I don't remember. It's been a long weekend. But there is a Native American lore that there is a river spirit in the shape of a giant frog.
I think that's where the intestine thing came from, was the Native American folklore of that.
To take into effect that a frog could be, 3 to 4 feet, weighing 60 to 70 pounds, like that's as big as my pit bull. That's a big fucking frog.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that's terrifying, especially if it's wearing pants and
Yeah.
casting magic and eating bowls.
Frogs, they say frogs can jump like 4 times their height. If that frog was that big, his leap capability would be ridiculous.
They definitely have the agility advantage on anything.
Oh, yeah.
But speaking of agility advantage, let's hop into some stats, characteristics, and abilities. So for characteristics, I got down leathery skin, 1.3 foot long tongue, magic wand, and loose fitting pants.
Well, he's also got the webbed feet and webbed hands, so he'd be able to swim hella good.
Put that down.
I just don't understand the loose fitting pants. Where did he get the loose fitting pants?
Maybe he was rummaging through somebody's backyard or something.
Yeah.
But I mean that also because I remember you had mentioned the theory that they're like a race of aliens.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of different conspiracies. So one of them's that they're a race of aliens, and the ones seen in the 1950s were a higher, I can't think of the word, like the higher up species, and then the ones that were seen later on without pants, without wands or whatever, were the lower caste, that maybe those are the ones that stayed on Earth and had mated with other creatures, and they became what they became now, and that's why they looked more reptilian. There's also a conspiracy saying that they were wizards and their spell went wrong, so they turned into frog people.
Okay, and that's why they could only generate sparks.
Yeah,
They're also like tricksters and shit too. That's what I also heard.
I'd believe it. I mean, if he can wield a wand.
So do you think their hierarchy of social status depends on whether or not they can put pants on?
I mean, I would say so. Like, if I saw a frogman, I'd much rather him wearing pants, because I don't feel like I want to see all that about a frog.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a possibility.
Any other notable characteristics we want to put down?
Possible wizard.
Well, speaking of being a possible wizard, the ability I do have down is magical casting, specifically fire magic.
Yeah, when you think about their skin, scaly skin and shit.
Just that it's leathery.
Yeah.
If that would provide any more defense, we can cover that here in a second. But ability-wise, yeah, magic casting was the only thing I could think to give him.
Besides great swimming skills and jumping, I think that's about all he's got.
All right, then let's hop into some stats. Let's talk intelligence. If we take magic casting and being able to wear pants into account,
That's pretty intelligent.
I mean, they'd have to be pretty intelligent.
Especially if you go from the wizards turning themselves into frogs too. It's
Yeah.
like it's just another goat man, except for they might have kept their intelligence a lot more.
Well, I don't know how much you guys know about frogs, but there's a lot of different species in the world. Like, some of them are see-through. They've developed over time to where they can just sit there and they, you can see all their intestines and shit, and they're see-through.
Yeah.
And there's one frog in the Amazon that's it's almost like a Wolverine skill. I don't know if you guys ever heard about that, but it can break its bones and push them out of its body to turn into claws for defense.
Really?
And it doesn't kill it. It goes on to live. So all the capabilities of certain frogs throughout the whole world is never ending. Not to mention that some frogs can freeze themselves over winter and then thaw out in the springtime and continue living on.
Jesus.
So frogs are very capable of a lot of things. Not to mention the other poisonous ass frogs in the Amazon and everywhere else.
Yeah, like the poison dart frogs.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like an endless capability because you don't know what kind of frog it's supposed to be based off.
Yeah.
Like, is it just a regular green frog? Is it a bullfrog? Whatever.
Kind of sounds to me more like just like a bullfrog or maybe a toad. Something
Yeah.
more on the basic line, but it's hard to really account because the only sightings are far away or just blatant hoaxes.
Yeah. And some of the sightings that say people that they've said seen it, some of them say, oh, it's got like spines. And it's like most people are basically describing an iguana. But if it is a frogman, you got to take into the point that they're most likely based off of reptilians at this point.
Right.
Never really know what you're going to run into with that.
Yeah, I think the frogmen are also like intertwined with all the like line of lizard men too.
Yeah.
So they're all kind of related in that aspect of it.
So maybe the frogmen are just the part of the reptilians that wear loose-fitting pants and cast spells.
They're the highest echelon of the reptilians.
Maybe the ones seen later on in life were the younger ones that were still trying to learn who they are and what they're capable of, and that's why they didn't have wands or pants.
Yeah, they're still trying to pick up on all the different aspects of frog reptilian life.
Yeah.
All right.
It's
Well,
a hard one.
let's get back to intelligence. If we go with the theory that they were wizards, and then maybe a spell gone wrong converted them into frogmen, they'd obviously have to have pretty high intelligence. But I do think the frog transformation might bring it down, especially since it's a failed spell cast. I'm not going to go too low, but I'm going to go pretty high. I'm going to say a 9.
I was thinking a 9 too. I was just thinking of a goat man intelligence for that.
I was thinking like 7 or 8,
7 or 8?
because they are frogs, but frogs are pretty smart in general.
Even with the low intelligence, they still managed to at least cast somewhat of a spell and put on pants.
True. Yeah, I think a 9 would work, considering they put pants on.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult.
Sometimes.
It is. All right, let's hop over to power. I don't think physically they're going to be extremely strong.
Oh, they got them thighs, man. Straight
They do have
donkey
the
kicking right
thighs.
there.
I wouldn't say they're like Bigfoot level, but they are still powerful. They still are cryptid at that point.
Yeah.
And I will give them the tongue. Like, that thing fires in like milliseconds out to grab objects.
Yeah.
So it's going to have a lot of muscle to it.
Some frogs are able to eat snakes. I mean, that's quite a powerful tongue.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it. Their jaw is pretty powerful too.
Yeah, between their legs and their jaws. I don't know about their hands and arms. Like, we kind of just see them dying.
Yeah, I don't think they'd be like the strongest part.
No.
And they'd have to be more narrow for the webbing, I would think.
I would imagine him like a ninja, mostly using his legs for some like crazy ass kicks and shit.
Yeah, for most of it's getting around and
Yeah.
stuff. Especially when it can make those large jumps.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think their arms would also be somewhat powerful. Not like compared to their legs, but they still kind of jump 4 times their height, and they would definitely probably land on their arms first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are we thinking maybe around the ballpark of 6 or 7?
That's what I was.
I'd give it a 7.
A 7?
Yeah.
All right, then we'll go for a 7. And what are we thinking about defense? Would the leathery skin and the pants come into play for defense here?
I don't know how much the pants would be for defense, since we don't really know what type of pants they are. If they're like cargo pants, or if they're jeans, or they're loose fitting too. So they're probably trashy pants, if anything. So they're not going to really hold off too much.
Just a lot of slack.
Yeah, I don't know about the defense. I don't know if you guys ever been frog hunting, but you can kill them with a freaking BB gun.
Yeah, I haven't, but that is a fair point. But they're also like, I don't know, not even a foot long.
Yeah, that's true. So if a regular frog can be killed with a BB gun, by the way, they're great eating. Future reference if you guys ever have a chance to eat frog legs. Amazing.
Right.
And the one officer claimed to shoot and kill one with a .357. Granted, which is a hell of a handgun.
I don't think it's going to have very high defense.
No.
Seeing as the leathery skin really wouldn't provide too much defense.
It's not like scales or anything.
No.
No.
So I would at least think maybe like, I don't want to go as low as a 4, maybe like a 5 or a 6.
5
Probably
or 6.
like a 5.
I'll go with 5. I was thinking 4, being honest. But I can go with the 6 round up. And now, here will be a good one. Mobility. This one's going to be very, very high.
I think that would be its highest point because frogs can just jump into the water and completely disappear. I mean, you'd see it for like a second or two and then it's gone.
And I mean, just not even counting for the swimming speed, just with the leaps alone.
Yeah.
I think that would bump it up to a really high agility.
Oh, yeah. Basically like the Hulk, just jumping over buildings. Well, not quite to that point, but still, say he's 4 foot, they jump
4 times their height, they're jumping like
So that'd be 16 feet into the air, which is fucking crazy still. And I mean, that's just like the lowest height.
Yeah, because some people have claimed that they've seen 6 foot ones.
And so you take something into account like that, you're jumping at like a max of 24 feet into the air. And if you just run middle of the road with a 5-foot frogman, you're at least getting 20 feet.
Personally, I'd shit myself if I saw a giant frog in the middle of the street.
Oh yeah, especially if he's wearing pants.
Yeah.
I think we might all be thinking a 10.
I'd give it a 10.
His mobility, his mobility abilities with the webbed hands And then the crazy jumps just instantly shot him up to a 10. He'd be able to cover so much ground in multiple different environments.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if he's the right color, he could just jump up into the woods and disappear up there.
Oh, yeah, just like jump into a tree or something.
Yeah.
Not even have to rely on water.
No.
Because with a lot of the water cryptids, it's like, yeah, they're probably going to be super fast in the water, but then you put them on land and it knocks them down. This guy in the water has the web feet, so he's going fast. And even on the ground, he's got the super jumping capabilities, so it's not like he's much slower at all.
Oh, yeah. Like, as a kid, it's tricky to catch frogs on ground because they're always hopping away, so you're chasing after them. So I'd give it a high,
I think it's definitely one of the fastest all-around cryptids that we've covered so far.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
All right, let's hop down to HP.
I'm not thinking too high for this one. I'm going to say a 4.
4.
I'd say 4 or 5.
I was thinking pretty low, so I think I'll go with a 4 as well. I mean, it's like you said, when you go after frogs, they don't have much defense. You just hit them a little bit and they're done.
Yeah, especially if the killing it with the 357 is true. That it's a powerful gun, but when you look at other cryptids and what they do, this thing doesn't really stand a chance against a lot.
Not HP or defense wise. And then let's talk about stealth.
I feel like the stealth would be pretty high as well. Because it comes back down to the whole here 1 second, gone the next.
Yeah,
and also the sightings only being like 20 years apart and everything.
Yeah, very few sightings. And if we do take in hoaxes into account, there's only been like 1 or 2 sightings.
Yeah.
Truthfully.
Without it being truly debunked.
The only thing that I would knock down from stealth would be they're kind of not always stealthy. Because if they really were just in the middle of the road chilling, I mean, they have the intelligence. They know probably when no vehicles are passing through here, it's not going to be the best place to hide.
Yeah, but you got to take into a granted, 1955 at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Most people were asleep at like 9, 10 o'clock back then.
No, definitely. And
also taking into account that they are most likely tricksters with what they do, they also kind of want to be seen to
more
scare
of a
people
purposeful
off.
thing.
Yeah.
All right, then what are we thinking? I mean, I have an idea, but I'll let you throw something out.
I'm thinking like 9, 10, maybe.
I was going to go with 8.
I was going to go with 7.
Well, shit.
Yeah, no, we're all kind of on different spectrums
I was
here.
going to go 7, but I was like, I feel like that's way too low for their stealth.
I'll go 8.
I'd do 8.
Mainly because they can fit in naturally pretty easily with any kind of environment.
Yeah.
Maybe not like out in the street or in a city, but any kind of forest environment, they blend in pretty easily.
Yeah, I was just thinking so high because every time they have been seen, it seems like when they want to be seen.
Yeah, no, it goes back to the trickster thing.
Go.
Yeah, no, they're literally gone the next second.
I think the cop report was the railing, and then he heard the splash, and they were already gone because they were in the water.
Then we'll hit him with an 8. He's got 2 pretty low stats, but everything else is a lot higher than I was expecting it to be.
I would almost put him as kind of like a glass cannon, not with like a power punching, but with more of his magic ability and everything.
Definitely a glass cannon. I think that'll be a big thing for him in the fight because our next cryptid's pretty powerful. He's going to probably have to rely on the magic to help him a fair bit. And then we will hop over to our next cryptid, the Bunyip. Do you want to do the history or do you want me to?
You can go ahead and do the history.
All right. In the dark looming depths of the Australian waters, there is said to lay a creature of true terror. This creature is known to the people as the Bunyip. This cryptid was said to be first spotted by Aboriginals as far back as the 1840s. Described as having a deformed head, long neck, and the body of a hippopotamus, this cryptid preys on women and children that venture close to the waters. Not only is the look of the cryptid fascinating, but so is the origin. Long ago, a man by the name of Bunyip broke the rainbow serpent's most sacred law by feeding on his totem animal, causing him to be banished from the tribe and morphing into this wicked spirit, eating tribesmen and tribeswomen. Is this cryptid another case of a boogeyman story to scare children, or is there a darker aura surrounding the tale of this elusive beast?
So the Bunyip's kind of hard for me because there's so many different stories of the way it looks. It's almost like a shapeshifter at this point.
And a lot of the looks are vastly different.
Oh yeah, so there's one. So some people have claimed that it looks like a giant starfish.
Mm-hmm.
Some people say it looks like half dog, half seal. And then my favorite by far is there's one where it's got thick, long black or brown fur with a long neck and either a horse or emu head with a horse tail.
Interesting.
There's also that it's like just a chimera of a bunch of shit.
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
It's like
I heard one that it's even like more of a bird creature.
I've heard
with
that
wings.
as well. That it has feathers on its back. I heard that too, and I couldn't really get into that. But there is a bird, and I can't remember where, but there's a bird. I don't know if you guys ever heard the sound that they claim the bunyip makes, but there's a bird that replicates that sound.
I know a bird because when I was researching, I saw the bird. I can't remember it though.
And they always compared the sound of the bird to the sound of the bunyip, that they sound exactly the same. The bunyip's hard, man, because there's so many different explanations on it, so many different stories of how it looks and what it does. Like, so it's mostly in like lagoons and swamps. Sometimes it's in a river. And the one with like the long neck and the horse or emu head, they claim that it has tusks.
I read the tusk thing too when I was reading, just trying to find descriptions besides just regular pictures of the cryptid.
So there was somebody had found a skull and claimed they took it to that natives down there, and they claimed that it was the skull of the bunyip. Later on, it was proved that it was like a disformed skull of like a baby horse or some shit like that. But it was on display in some sort of museum or something for like 20 years. And a lot of people were like, that's the bunyip, that's the bunyip.
In reality, it was just...
Yeah, a disformed skull. But the tales on this creature, some say there's a lot of stories of that it preys on women and children.
Oh, yeah.
It's usually at night near a river. Whenever they're trying to go get water, that's when this thing goes and attacks them.
Yeah.
So.
I know it really is like the boogeyman. I was listening to a podcast a while back that was talking about boogeyman stories.
Yeah.
And they talked about the bunyip because they have an Australian friend who is telling boogeyman stories from Australia, and the bunyip was like one of the big ones.
It's definitely a mysterious creature. Like
Oh, yeah,
most cryptids, they have origin stories that are pretty much the same look, same everything, just repeated in a different story in a different type of the world.
Oh yeah, like Bigfoot. I mean, you have basically the same looking Bigfoot with minor differences everywhere.
Yeah, but the bunyip is changing constantly. There's only, a handful of stories that match the look, but that's for every single version of it, though. So at this point, it's basically a shapeshifter.
Yeah, no, I didn't even think about the shape-shifting aspect, but it would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Especially if the origin of somebody being taken over or transformed into this creature.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just a malevolent spirit that's switching its forms around to fit whatever area or need it has.
It's a strange one for sure. Some say, it preys on humans, and then some say, it doesn't eat meat at all. I've heard a story where it's basically a vegetarian. So the stories vary, and it's confusing because I spent a lot of time on my drive listening to it, and it's a weird one.
There's some stories of it being the boogeyman, but it's also some stories of it being like not a savior. I can't think of the word, but the story of it was there's a fisherman going out on his boat with a couple of like kids and children, and they were they know of the folklore and everything. The guy was about to shoot it, and they're like, "Don't shoot it. Something bad will happen if you shoot it."
I've heard that.
And then he shot it, of course, because if you see something like that, you're gonna shoot it.
Yeah.
And so then he fell ill and he died. I
Yeah,
don't remember.
was it like 3 months later or something like
Yeah.
that? I know what you're talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah, he ended up falling ill with some crazy ass sickness or disease, and then died not too long after shooting the creature.
That's the scary part of like all these, how it all ties back to the native folklores.
Yeah.
It's kind of like all the shit in Egypt when they raid tombs and stuff. A lot of the people end up dying just from random diseases.
Okay, but all those people who do all that are dumbasses. Because if you look through history, every time anything's happened like that, a plague comes on. I mean, look, what was it like 2 years ago that they had found a crypt and opened one of the things, and boom, look, a year later we had COVID.
You're trying to tie COVID to ancient Egyptians.
Yeah, man. There's a plague. It's been proven that there's a plague every 100 years.
I've seen that, yeah.
And almost every time before there's a giant plague, something crazy is found and open.
I mean, it makes sense because, these burials are centuries and centuries old.
Yeah.
They don't make contact with the outside world, and so who knows what they could be carrying or what kind of bacteria they're developing.
Exactly. So think about all the things that ancient Egyptians had to go through. They were always dying from sickness. So if you open one of those caskets and it's, they seal it. Like
that shit is sealed tight.
The capability that they had back then, we can't do today.
No.
I've seen them where perfectly dug rectangles in stone, smooth edges, perfect corners, and their seal is so tight that when you bust it, like I don't know if you guys ever watched the videos of when they bust one open, all this dust flies out. That's just been building up because it's what came from the body after being mummified. Skin turns into dust, shit like that. So if that gets into the air, of course people are gonna get sick. But
And yeah, it's just sitting there soaking in all this bacteria and stuff because it's not making contact, so it's just sitting there growing. And I mean, Egyptians were like the pinnacle of technology and medicine in their time.
But back to the thing, almost every time somebody does something with a cryptid or something ancient, there's always something that bad happens after. Whether it's 3 days or 3 months, something always bad happens to that person or that group of people.
Oh yeah, and it always seems to tie back to these ancient Native American stories and curses that go along with a lot of these cryptids.
Most cryptids, every cryptid I've heard of, there's some sort of Native American lore on it, which means
especially like big ones like the Wendigo, like the poster we have there, or the Skinwalker.
Yeah, there's so many Native American stories that kind of proves that these creatures are ancient. They've been around forever.
Yeah, and they would know. I mean, they've been here the longest.
Yeah.
So it's no surprise that they have all the stories and stuff to go along with it.
Oh, yeah. Like, I watch a bunch of stuff on cryptids or, like, anything else in that nature. And they always go and find natives from that territory. And they tell stories from their elders, their grandpas, their, everybody. And there's always that one story that is handed down from person to person, and it's told word by word throughout time. And it's always the same story, no matter what creature it is. There's always a certain story that, has never been proven wrong.
All right, well, with that tangent out of the way, let's hop over to some abilities, stats, and characteristics for the Bunyip.
That's a hard one.
So for characteristics, I put down 27.5 feet long. I did do some conversions because they use a very weird metric system down there.
Some people say it varies between 5 to 15 feet. Some say it's 20 feet long. If we had to pick a version, I would go with the one where it has tusks and crazy ass body and shit. Because I feel like that's the more realistic one, where it's like this crazy cryptid, crazy creature that just morphed and evolved over time to what it needed to be.
I'm actually going to switch it. I'm going to put varying length because it just changes so much. And I think that would be more fair. With the different shapes and sizes it comes in, it's hard to really pin down one length or size for it specifically.
Yeah, especially because some people say it's a giant starfish.
Now that one definitely throws a wrench in the water, to say the least. I did put down tusks for the characteristics.
I feel like that's like one of the most well-known ones for
Yeah.
too.
And then I also put down lanky limbs because I was reading, they had like this, it's like 10 or 18 facts on the Bunyip on this one website I was reading from. And it said, while it does have the tusks, it seems that one of its more used killing methods is
It's
like
long arms. and
long
shit.
arms used to like crush.
Yeah,
and
so
rip.
they claim that it hugs its prey to death, almost like a snake or something. It's just
Like how it kind of just coils around the prey. Like
Yeah.
that. But those are the three main characteristics I had down. Anything else we want to throw in there that would stand out? I mean, it's kind of hard since it's changing.
if we're going with that version, it does. They say it has long, thick fur.
Long, thick fur. All right.
Yeah, it's there's a show that had something like that, and it just reminded me when I saw this thing for the first time. I was like, oh, that's what it was. Full Metal Alchemist. Remember the girl that turns into the dog? That's what it looked like to me.
Yeah,
And as the
I don't
long
want to
year
remember
goes
her
on,
name because it'd make me sad. But yeah, the half dog, half human Chimera.
Y'all watch some weird shit, man.
That show, we're not going to get off on a tangent because that's a Patreon only thing. But very good show.
I'll take your word for it.
Oh yeah. Any other characteristics that would stand out
I mean,
and or affect the stats?
they say it has a horse tail. I don't know if that accounts to anything because I didn't really hear anything about anything special about its tail other than it having like
just
the type
having
of
one.
horse hair.
I don't know.
Again, the most common one I saw was that it has it's on the forelegs, so it's the dog, and then it goes to the head, and it looks like it's like a saber tooth / like a walrus kind of, and then it has the lengthy hair and then the horse tail.
Yeah, so from everything I heard, people had compared it to a walrus or what is that one?
A seal.
The lion seal or whatever. Yeah, like that one in what is that Penguin movie where it's like
Happy Feet.
yeah, something like that. That's something new I was talking.
All right, well then I think that covers the characteristics. Now, I did find some interesting abilities that I only found on this one website. They didn't share any of their sources, so I don't know where they got them. I didn't hear any stories. But for abilities, it is said that it can alter the water level of its environment.
Yeah, I had heard that. I heard that as well. So these fishermen were out fishing, and one had caught something on their line, and it was real heavy. So the other guys helped him pull it out of the water, and they claimed that it was a baby bunyip. Well, the water started to rise, and they heard this noise from across the water, and they claimed that it was the mother looking for its baby, and it knew that they had the baby. So the water started to rise, and a bunch of the tribe started to drown because the water got so high.
Okay.
And that the fisherman was like, no, this is mine now, blah, blah, blah. He's like, even though we can't eat it, I'm keeping it, blah, blah, blah. And pretty much, basically the story is the water rose, and pretty much the whole tribe died. The baby went back to its mother. There's
As
also,
it should be.
There's another, I want to say it would count as an ability. There was a story where it kind of, like if you mess with it or something, it puts out this like effect where it puts a bunch of pressure on you, and you end up with like a headache or a migraine, and you end up like missing 2 or 3 days out of your life because so much pressure is put on you.
I think I did hear about that one.
Yeah, that's actually the second ability I have down. I put
Okay.
down the crippling roar.
Yeah.
But it might also tie in with the third ability, which seems to be a human hypnotism
Yeah.
that it has. So it might just be an amalgamation of the two. But the roar is definitely something that stands out from
Yeah.
what I've heard.
It's kind of like almost like a high pitch, like a deep high pitch growl, basically.
I'd be interested to hear this bird that it sounds like, because those animals down in Australia make some weird fucking noises.
Yeah.
Like if you've ever heard a Tasmanian devil,
Oh yeah, dude, those things are weird.
they look cute, but the noises they make, insane. But any other abilities we want to throw down before we hop into some stats? Those were really the big ones that stuck out to me.
Yeah, I don't think I really heard any other ones than those ones.
All right, cool. Then let's hop into some intelligence. Now, the only sticking point that would boost the intelligence for me would be that it has these abilities. That might bump it up a little, if any, but it might just be one of those things where it knows it has these abilities because it's lived with them for so long that it's not really an
It's kind of
intelligence
one
thing.
of its like survival instinct, I feel like. So it's
Yeah.
like how an animal learns to do something, and then it will start doing that most of the time. So
Yeah,
I
something
would count
just-
that as like highly intelligent, like a 9 or a 10. I would still give it maybe like a 6 at least.
I think 6 is a fair middle of the road answer. There's just nothing that stuck out to me that was like, oh, this would be some hyper intelligence from a creature.
Yeah, I would be cool with 6 because they've never proven like saying how smart it is.
6 is fair. Now, what are we thinking for power?
I think its power would be pretty high if it hugs its prey to death.
Yeah, if it's choosing to hug instead of just go for like a stab with the tusks.
Yeah, because if it does, have tusks, whether it's straight out or like a saber tooth, it would just put it in its jaws and murk it. But
Yeah.
because it's choosing to get up close and personal and hugging their prey to death, I would say it's pretty strong.
So are we thinking how high are we going to go?
What did we give Megaconda? We gave him a 10, right? Because
A 10, yeah, because of pretty much the sheer size.
Yeah,
Really played into an effect there.
I'd say like an 8 or a 9 maybe.
I was gonna say a 9 then.
I think a 9 is fair. Just because it seems to be most of the power is in the arms.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd probably have a strong jaw because of the tusks, but when it goes for the hug instead of the bite with the tusks, it makes me think that it doesn't really have as strong of jaw capability.
Yeah, and they've, from everything I've heard, they've never described what it's like when it bites something or eats something. They never described, how powerful its jaws are.
All right, then let's move into defense. And I think the long, thick fur will come into play here.
I would say so.
Yeah, I would see it as being like kind of Sasquatch for.
It might even be a little bit better because it seems to be a lot longer than just Sasquatch fur.
Well, that, and if it is a water creature, it's probably underneath the fur. It's probably got skin like a hippo or something.
Yeah, really tough
That
skin.
real tough leather skin. I'd say like an 8. Maybe.
Yeah, I would go with.
I was
that, too.
actually on an 8 as well, so I'm glad we could all agree on that one. And what are we thinking for mobility?
It is a bigger creature,
It is.
and it's always claimed that it's even when it's in a river, it's always in a small water source.
And also slowly creeps on him. No, I feel like that would be more stealth, but I feel like this creature kind of just moves slowly in general.
Yeah, no, there's no
So-
like big story of it moving quickly through the water, and
No.
It does. Didn't read anything about like any kind of webbing in any of the limbs, so it's not going to have that kind of mobility advantage.
I'd probably say like a 5 or 6.
Now, I have heard one story. It was of like the different chimeras. It had a seal tail,
Okay.
so it had the fins on the back.
I had heard
Its
something
tail.
like that too, but the most reoccurring one was the horsetail.
So we're going to stick with the horsetail then.
I mean, it could have a seal tail, but because it does have long hair, long fur, it could have been covering up the
Yeah.
tail, so people just assumed it was like a horsetail.
Horsetail instead.
But at the same time, nobody claimed how fast it was. Like it was
No.
there 1 second and over here.
Even
the
if it
next.
had that tail, I don't think it would help it enough to be like a high rate of speed.
No, because
either,
it's a
so.
big creature.
And when you go back to the story of the fisherman catching the baby, it's not like the mother swam super fast and took the
No.
guys out. Instead, it chose to raise the water level to take them out instead of getting over there quickly.
Yeah.
I think around a 5 or a 6.
Yeah, I wouldn't go too low,
No,
but
because
not high.
a lot of water cryptids tend to be on the faster side,
Yeah.
especially when they're environment. I mean, we talked about it before. The weightlessness in water just keeps them from being fast no matter the size. If we're thinking 5 or 6, Roger,
I would say 6.
a 6. All right, that's fair.
Good with the 6.
And what are we thinking for HP?
Well, the story that you were talking about, the man had claimed to kill it, but what did he kill it with?
It was some sort of rifle. I don't remember what rifle he was using.
Because I had heard one where they were talking about, people who have claimed to kill it was always a higher rifle. So people claim to carry, elephant guns and shit. Which,
Okay.
that's a hell of a gun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's got some fucking kick to it.
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like it would take a lot to fucking kill this creature.
Yeah, I would almost put its HP probably at like an 8.
An 8? Yeah, I think
I'd be
that's
8.
fair. Yeah, no, especially if it takes an elephant gun to put it down.
Yeah.
It's already got the massive defense, and that's really the only kind of gun I could think of to tear through something like defense and HP. And then what about stealth? I'll give it this. I think altering the water level could come into advantage with the stealth, because if it is in like low water areas, and if
Yeah.
it needs to get away, it just raises the water and then disappears under it. That's really the only kind of stealth.
Yeah,
It's
I
would
also
give it from the
stealthy in general of like taking out kids and women and stuff. It sneaks up on them. That's how it kills them usually.
Yeah, but it's also doing it in the cover of night.
Which is kind of a tactical thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't give it too much stealth because there is so many different sightings and claiming that people have seen it.
And it's a bigger creature, which makes it even harder on stealth.
Yeah.
I feel like its stealth would also kind of depend on where it's fighting too. I feel like if it was a swampy area, that's where its stealth would raise at least 1 more, just because
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
it's kind of its environment.
Murky
Yeah,
water.
I've seen
and-
more in murky water and swamps than it is in riverbeds. Not that it hasn't been seen, it's just tends to stick more with the right environment.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe like a 6.
I can go with the 6.
Yeah, I think 6 is a fair roundup. Okay, and that's the last stat. Now let's do a stat rerun before we hop into the main event. So since we're already here, the Bunyip has a 6 intelligence, power 9, defense 8, mobility 6, HP 8, stealth 6. It's definitely a tank build. A high damage tank build.
Yeah, it's a fucking paladin versus a mage basically for this one.
Yeah, it's not going to be an easy fight for the Frogman, with the Frogman having a 9 intelligence, power 7, defense 5, mobility 10, HP 4, and stealth 8. I mean, their builds are just completely separate sides of the fence. Their most common thing would be power.
I do have a fun fact about the Bunyip. So in the early 1900s or something like that, a guy had created an animatronic Bunyip
I saw something on that. Yeah.
where he paid 20 cents to see it, and it would like pop up out of the water and do its little screech, and over time it had become free. Like you can still go down there to this day and see the animatronic. Like granted, it's been changed over time of what animatronics nowadays, but it's been vandalized and all that stuff. But that's just a fun fact. There's an animatronic still to this day about the Bunyip.
Oh, that's pretty cool. If I ever find myself being in Australia, which I hope never happens.
I avoid everything
I
down
would
there will
venture.
kill you.
Just about, yeah. I mean, there's some creepy, just ghost stories in general, and I'm not a big ghost believer, but I wouldn't fuck with anything ghost-related down there, especially.
No, because they'd be vengeful as fuck. Imagine how one of them people died.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's Tasmania started off as just a prison, and they just kept prisoners down there. and it was like horrible living conditions for women, men, and children. Fuck that. So with all that out of the way, let's talk Battle Arena.
I would go with because frogs do tend to chill in swamps and lagoons.
Yeah.
I would either go with a swamp or a lagoon,
I was saying the swamp.
or like a shallow river.
I kind of like the swamp most of all. But yeah, just anything with murky water, really. They have very similar environments.
Yeah.
I feel like it would help them both stealthily too.
Yeah, it's definitely playing towards their advantages. Do we want to throw maybe like a road on the side? Just as a little frogman?
I don't feel like that
Sideshow.
would benefit either one of them at that point, though. Because if you're fighting, it's I would say maybe like an island in the swamp, so there is some middle ground.
Yeah, just
So
like a
they're-
raised area.
Yeah, so
Yeah, for
frogman
the
can go
frogman.
up there and recover or whatever. Because
Yeah.
there's not a lot of stories about the bunyip on land,
No, I don't think I've read or heard any stories of the bunyip being on land.
so it
I
would be
think
it
it's
would
a
be
possibility,
yeah.
but it's definitely not a go-to.
I feel like it would be mostly in water fight.
All right.
And if we give it a swamp, some swamps have high water or whatever,
Yeah.
but it would be somewhat shallow water, so they wouldn't be fully immersed. They'd be like half in, half out of the water.
All right, then we've settled on a low-water swamp with a little bit of raised land.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
All right, so before we hop into this fight is brought to you in part by our Patreon. Go check it out. $3 a month. There's some pretty good stuff on there. What episode is coming out next? What did we talk about last week?
Talked about the origin of CBT, I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah, so if you want to know how the name of CBT Studios came to be, and just CBT in general, go ahead and subscribe to the Patreon. We talk about all kinds of stuff on there, special holiday cryptid episodes. The Discord link is finally up. I was on my computer and I finally did it.
I saw something on that. I was like, oh, hey, he finally got it up.
Yeah, Justin joined on the Discord. And then hopefully there'll be some D&D to come in the future once we upgrade the microphones again. If you want to hear about that, tune into the Patreon. But yeah, with that out of the way, let's hop into today's main event. Who are we thinking has the advantage going into this fight?
I feel like the frogman would have the advantage because maybe like the bunyip would just be chilling or whatever, and the frog.
I feel like the frogman has they both have a different advantage. For sure, bunyip has strength advantage, whereas frogman has the mobility and the stealth. I feel
Yeah.
like.
I think the Bunyip, his best bet of winning is going to be his intelligence tied in with his mobility.
Yeah,
I feel
but
like some of his abilities would also kind of go towards that too.
is this just like a territory fight, or like what would be the cause of it?
I think it'd be more of a territory fight. The Frogman would probably try and instigate some kind of confrontation. Maybe didn't originally plan to go for a full fight, but did its little trickster thing and got drug into a fight with a deadly creature.
I would say it almost probably like shot a spark over the bunyip's head, and that's what kind of starts this fight in general.
Yeah. So, how do we think the magic will come into play? Because it's obviously not high-end fire magic. It's just going to be some sparks it's able to shoot as far as we know.
I think it would be like a last resort type thing. Like, say he's getting his ass kicked, and boom, he pulls his little wand out of his ankle pocket. He's like, zap, zap.
I was gonna say that it could set the bunyip's fur on fire, but the bunyip's mostly in water, so it's already gonna be damp, so it's not really gonna do much.
Yeah.
No.
Either way.
It's going to be really hard for the Frogman to break through the thick fur. I mean, because its kick is probably going to be its strongest attack. And as far as I know, do frogs have any? I know they don't have teeth. Do they have any kind of razor lining in their mouth?
I'm not sure on that one, honestly.
I mean, I only dissected one frog in high school, so I don't really remember much.
I don't even think I really looked at the mouth when we dissected the frogs. Yeah, I don't think they have teeth. They have a lining, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But
I think a lot of it is more just crushing, since they do aim for smaller prey.
I'd imagine him like attacking the bunyip like some Mortal Kombat Liu Kang shit, like swimming through the water and then jumps up and does a bicycle kick. That's what I would imagine.
Yeah, no, I think, and even with the magic, I think his best bet would be to go for headshots, which I think would be possible. No, I think because it's hard, because obviously the bunyip just needs to get in close, because the frogman has no defense, no HP.
I feel like even if the bunyip gets in close, I feel like if it tries and roars or does something, that's when the Frogman can try something with the wand and just try to shove it down its mouth and start shooting sparks down.
I mean-
or it goes for the classic butthole, grab the intestines through it, and you're good.
Which,
That's a one hell of a way to go.
but I mean, it would be a good strategy. He's got the mobility, so he could probably get around quick, tied in with the stealth.
Yeah, but I mean, even if they don't get full super close contact, they don't ever talk about it. But maybe the Bunyip would finally use its tusks.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't think the tusks are something to discount.
No.
I think that's one of the few attacks from the Bunyip that the Frogman could survive from without it just being a straight up one hit. But I definitely think, well, here's my thing: would the roar affect the Frogman?
Yeah, would it mess with his mind?
Yeah, because he obviously doesn't have the human mind, which seems to be the main target of the roar. And I didn't read anything of it affecting like nearby creatures or animals.
Maybe it's just like the focus on one thing at a time. So if like it's focusing on this person or this one creature, that's going to be the only one affected from it, not a full,
Yeah, not just everything surrounding it.
Yeah. So maybe if he did focus on the Frogman, he'd give him a killer migraine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it would make the Frogman dizzy. I don't know if it would be able to make him forget and just knock him out for 2 or 3 days.
No, like give him
but-
some like vertigo shit, like make him
Yeah.
fucked up a little bit.
And I mean, if it did use the roar, it's a question of would it use it when the Frogman is far away, or would it use it when it's up close? Because it would have a hard time closing the distance between him and the Frogman, because the Frogman can easily put a lot of distance between the two.
Yeah.
Especially if it goes to land.
Well, I mean, it brings it back to, the Frogman jumping on his back and kind of just like kicking him and shit from above. Because I don't imagine the Bunyip being able to like reach his back and shit.
No, I mean, it has a long neck, but still, even if it could reach around all the way to the back, it'd have a hard time getting in a stab with the tusks.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't really see Frogman killing the Bunyip. Like that's
no, not with
far-fetched.
kicks,
No.
especially.
Like maybe break a rib or two.
Yeah, it is just really hard for the Frogman to do any damage just
Unless-
without the wand.
I feel like the only way he could do it is if he got really up close and put like all his power into a kick and broke its neck through the kick.
Yeah, or kind of was able to get the wand in between the layers of fur.
Yeah.
And then casting a fireworks spell or a sparks like up close to the skin to do some damage.
Yeah.
Or, as Roger gracefully put it, goes for the butthole.
Yeah, but even if the Frogman did get that pretty close, at that point the Bunyip could just grab him and pull him into his arms or
Oh, yeah.
whatever.
And for all we know, when he's going for the reach around, he could just grab him with the back legs. And I mean, the back legs got to be just as strong as the front. Probably not as strong as all the legs put together, but still, with the low defense from the Frogman, it'd still do a considerable amount of damage.
Me personally, I feel like the Bunyip would just kick the Frogman's ass. Be a hell of an interesting fight, but
It'd be a weird fight to see, but I feel like the Frogman's HP and his like defense is just way too low to take on something like the
like
Bunyip.
one powerful blow, he's gonna be fucked up.
Yeah, and you would think the magic would play a big role, but with the fur and with it always being water, like any kind of fire spell would be hard to be effective against something like that.
Yeah, plus you don't hear about a whole lot of swamps catching on fire.
No. All right, then I think we're decided. It would definitely be an obscure fight, but the Bunyip is going to win a majority of the time, hands down.
Yeah.
It just has the less like fanatical ways of winning.
Yeah, no. The Frogman has to get some obscure wins to pull this one out of its ass, literally. All right, then we welcome the Bunyip into our Hall of Champions, and we'll see Frogman come back, pin him up against some more fair fights, some more scenarios where his more obscure abilities will come into play.
I would have one in mind where you might have a chance. We can talk about that later.
I would too.
There is one thing. Do we think the tongue would give him any kind of help in this fight?
Not really, because I feel like if he, tried to grab him with the tongue, all it would do is pull Frogman closer.
Yeah.
There's no way
That's
he'd
what I was
move
saying.
that
I was
giant
like-
thing.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, he can probably maybe choke him, but at that point, that's when the Bunyip kind of just jerks him, and that's when it brings him down.
Yeah, I could even see the tongue being ripped off by the sheer force.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, unfortunate for the Frogman, but he definitely,
Got his ass kicked.
suffice it to say. With that out of the way, let's talk some believability, which will be interesting. Devin, how about you start us off with some Bunyip believability? We'll save the Frogman for last.
So the Bunyip is hard. The only way I believe that the Bunyip is real is because there is so much, native lore on it. But I feel like at the same time, the only way it's real is if it's truly a shapeshifter, shifts to what it wants certain people to see. I don't know, man. It's hard. I don't want to believe in it, but at the same time, I can see it.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. Whenever things tie into more Native American lore, I tend to believe it more. But it would really have to be a shapeshifter. Unless, the native folk would have to come out and say, it can shapeshift, or it can change your perception of it.
Yeah.
Or there's multiple bunyips that are all just different forms, and bunyip is more of just a term for something else.
The word bunyip has changed over time. At a certain point in time, it was an insult. At one point, it was the name of a leader or some crazy shit like that. But originally, it was the creature, and then I can't remember the actual meaning of bunyip. But at some point, it was an insult. So the word bunyip has changed over time.
Okay.
But at the same time, at one point, bunyip meant a mythical creature. So it could be all these different mythical creatures, and they're all just called the bunyip.
Yeah.
Because that's their one word for a mythical creature.
I mean, and that would make sense. The bunyip itself, the word is just ever-changing. What about you, Roger? Thoughts?
Alright, I believe it more being an evil spirit that can more of shapeshift into it.
See, I can get behind that.
That's the only thing I can really see of it. It's not really something that's so real that I can be oh yeah, this thing's for sure real. Sasquatch is real. Bigfoot, I can even see Wendigo somewhat being real. But
yeah.
This thing I only see it being the evil spirit with how they say it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think there's just too many inconsistencies in the look for me to put a whole lot of stock into it, and the only stock I put in is the stuff coming from the natives. Let's talk about the star of the hour, Frogman. Anybody got some great thoughts?
I cannot get behind this one. I'm sorry, but I can't. Because every time it's always been disproved, or it's just, the one or two stories that haven't been disproved is because nobody else saw it, so they can't disprove it. 2 cops claim that they've seen it, and then years later they were like, no, it was just a giant iguana without a tail.
I mean, the blatant hoaxing takes it away from me. What really takes it away from me is that it casts magic.
Yeah.
And it wears pants.
Pants is where it got me.
As much as I love that stuff, it's it kind of just really takes it away.
Well, it's the other day when I first started researching it, and I was telling you that this one was just a hard one to get behind because it wears fucking pants, man.
You don't see Bigfoot or the Mothman or the fucking Wendigo wearing pants. The only one that I can attribute to wearing pants, which is not something we've covered yet, which we will in the future, is the Skinwalker.
I could see Goatman maybe wearing pants too.
I feel like it would be more of a cut-off pants scenario, where his jeans got cut off, and it's almost like the Incredible Hulk look.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they kind of just stayed on after the transformation.
Yeah. I personally can't get behind the Frogman.
Yeah.
It's a no-go for me.
It's one of the few cryptids I just can't put stock into.
I feel like it's the cops kind of mistaking seeing a lizard man, and then they just said a frog.
So you think it could just be
a lizard man?
A lizard man.
Yeah. I don't think anyone saw any magic going on or something. Or wearing pants. No, that's not.
There's one story where somebody was like, well, maybe it wasn't a wand and it was a road flare that they had found and just popped the top off of it.
That would make sense, but those road flares last a long time. See, here's my little theory for that one when I was reading that origin, because it got me thinking. This is an Ohio cryptid, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
But there's so many different stories about so many different creatures in Ohio.
I don't know what the occult lifestyle is like up in Ohio. I imagine it's not popping off, but I thought maybe it's a group of occultists dressed up in whatever occult guy they worship, and they just have a firework and they're trying to freak the fuck out of this guy to go away while they do their... Because he said he saw them praying. That's really if I were to believe the story itself, that's the angle I would have to go at it from.
I would go with something like that, but I would put it more towards a bunch of fucking hippies out there on acid and shit. Just,
I feel like if it was actually a cryptid, not a cold thing, because I think they first spotted it May of 1955.
Yeah,
I read.
It was spring of 55, and because he took so long to tell his story, he couldn't remember exactly what month. It was like
Yeah.
May or March or something like that.
But I feel like May's so close to like July, and so they're getting ready for fireworks and everything. Maybe they had a sparkler, and that's what that was, of the sparks going on.
I could see that.
That's the
That's
only
where
thing I could see.
where my head went at first, because I tried to tackle it from the maybe it's not magic angle. So the road flare was a good one, but I went for the sparkler as well. My only problem is how the fuck are they going to get that sparkler going? Maybe they do have magic, and
They felt like playing with sparklers. Who knows?
Yeah.
I can't get behind the Frogman.
No.
It's one of those cryptids that gets so mythical that is just insane. Like there's Goatman, where it has so many stories, and then it's just a weird cryptid in general to the point where it's not believable. But this one, it's just so weird.
So the only way I can get behind it is from the native stories, that it's a river spirit.
Yeah.
So maybe it is real and it's a river spirit, and then people over time just started explaining it to this crazy ass theory that it's a giant frog and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But the only way I could believe it is if it is truly a river spirit.
I could get behind that, but I can't really get behind any of the stories,
No.
especially the origin with the pants and
No.
the wand, quote unquote. It's fun to think about, but
And the same point, why was that salesman out driving around at 3 o'clock in the morning?
yeah. I
Nobody's
wouldn't
going
imagine
door to
you'd
door at 3
typically do
o'clock in the
that.
morning trying to sell you something.
No, and you're not going to any kind of meeting at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Not in the 50s.
No, hell no.
Unless you're a cultist, bringing it right back to that. So, yeah,
I mean, the occult angle is really the only way I could tackle it from, and even then, that's not
It's a
putting
hard
any
one.
stock into the cryptid. It'd be a human thing.
yeah, I don't know.
But I think that draws with our thoughts out of the way. Andrew's not here this episode, as you've noticed, so I'll cover his angle for these cryptids. He doesn't believe in them.
I
Which,
believe that.
for once, I think we're all genuinely on the same boat.
Yeah.
Still give it a little more stock. Bunyip, more so.
I feel like the Bunyip's the more believable one
Oh, by far.
because it's got the boogeyman theory to it.
Mm-hmm. And it's got the better ties to
Yeah.
Native American, or I guess they're not Native Americans.
They're
But
Aborigines.
Aboriginals, natives to Australia. They've got better ties than Mr. Frogman does.
Talking about that. Did you guys read any of like the old school newspaper stories?
I didn't know.
Super racist.
Well, this is the 50s, so
Like in Australia when they
Before
talk
you
about
get
them,
this out here, we at CBT Studios do not agree with any of the racist remarks made.
No,
in the
not at all. And I'm
1950s.
not going to get into what they said. I just want to say that back in the day in Australia, the shit they said was ridiculous.
If you want to enlighten yourself on 50s Australia terminology and usage in accordance with cryptids, you are more than welcome to check it out yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that draws this episode to a close. Any closing thoughts?
Frogman's fucking weird.
Yeah. Loveland Frogman.
And if you're ever in Australia, go check out that animatronic. And we do actually have some Australian listeners.
Yeah, send us a picture or something.
Yeah, let us know. Maybe there's some more information that you guys have. So write into the show.
Yeah.
Speaking of writing in the show, you can email us at cryptidversuscryptid@gmail.com. That is
CRYPTID versus CRYPTID@gmail.com.
and feel free to share the podcast with your friends and family.
Also, feel free to follow us on Twitter. I don't even know what that's at, but it's Cryptid versus.
Yep, Cryptid Versus on Twitter, CRYPTIDVS at Twitter. We have 3 followers. I don't post much on it because of that. So if we get more followers, I'll start making more posts.
It's also another way to reach out to us too. So.
Yeah.
I don't even have Twitter, so.
Man, you're our number 1 guest. Don't even have Twitter.
Nope.
Fair enough. And then leave us some reviews. We read 5-star reviews out on the show. Maybe 4 if it's nice enough. And then the rest of them we make fun of on Patreon. So if you want to hear us make fun of people's mean comments, follow us on Patreon. And we do also read out and give shout outs for all emails. So yeah, I think that's it. Everything's covered for today. I don't think we have an inkling as to what we're going to do for the next episode.
No, I'm not good on water cryptids, so I gotta
No.
actually do research on it.
There's a very narrow amount of good water cryptids that aren't just an offshoot of Nessie. But with that out of the way, it's been us here at CBT Studios, and we'll catch you in the next episode. See you.
Later.
Peace.